Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm Matt. Thank you for stopping by the channel. Now I've got another simple fly for you today, another one from Morgan Lyle's Simple Flies. This one is called the Improved Montana Stone. Now we've tied the Montana Stonefly Nymph on this channel before. Remember, it was the black and yellow chenille, pretty big bug created by Lou Oatman, who is actually from New York. But obviously it's a nymph for some of the big western stoneflies. Now this one today is a little bit simpler than that. It's probably why I was in Morgan Lyle's book. Still just two materials. It's got a wool yarn and then a Grizzly hackle for the tail and the legs. Now the wool yarn I'm using on this one, I'm using a dark brown, but you could go with anything dark, either a brown or a black, and it would be fine. And I think the wool just gives it a little bit more of a realistic and buggy look. If you don't have wool, just use acrylic. Just use any synthetic you've got. I mean, the original Montana Stonefly was black chenille, so that's as synthetic as it gets. Now, I promise you, it is a simple fly. The video you're about to see probably takes me 7 or 8 minutes because I'm going pretty slow and talking all about it. But I promise you, after about 2 of them, you'll have this down to less than 5 minutes. And it's just a pretty cool looking pattern. I'm sure it's going to be effective, and I think you're going to like it. Let's give it a shot. So there it is in the vise, the Improved Montana Stone. Common sizes for this guy are 8 to 12, so it's a pretty big western stonefly. I'm tying it on a size 10, it's a 3X long hook. And I'm going to put down some weight. This is 0.15, and I'm putting about the first third of the hook. And brown thread. I'm using a 70 denier, but certainly could go to a 140 or a 6/0 if you need. Put a dam behind it, then lock it in front. A few wraps over it, and then take it back to the bend of the hook. Now I think I mentioned only 2 components to this. First one we're going to tie in is the tail, and the same feather we're going to wrap for the legs up forward. Grizzly hackle. Just, take about 10 or 15 of them off from the base, some of the longer ones, and we're going to tie this in as a tail. And it's not a real long tail, so maybe a little bit less than a hook gap, maybe a hook gap. So I think we got it right there. Yeah, let's go a little bit longer. Let's back it up just a hair. Okay, I like that right there. Now go ahead and catch this in up front. Leave your hook or your thread right behind the weight. Now for the body. It's a wool yarn. So Darren from Piscator Flies sent me some of this. This is really cool wool yarn. This is a huge piece right here, but I'll cut about a 6-inch piece from it and then split it into thirds because it's a 3-strand yarn. It's still pretty thick looking, but it's not too bad. What I love about this stuff is you can tie it on thick, or you can cord it up. So you can pull it tight and then spin it the right way, and you'll make a nice cord, and you can make some segmented bodies like that, or you can tie it on looser and make a nice big thick buggy body. So I'm just going to take this and then catch it in right behind the weight, and I'll do a pinch wrap. And I say that a lot. A few of you might not know what a pinch wrap is. Basically it's just pinching the material and keep it pinched, and then push the thread up in there. So the thread is pinched between my fingers too, and I'm not letting go while I bring it down on the other side. So you have constant tension on your thread and your material. So that was one pinch wrap right there, and it's just one way to help it keep it on top of the hook without it getting out of line on you. So let's go ahead and catch this in to the back of the tail where we're going to start wrapping it. And I'll show you one little tip when you're wrapping this type of a body. And I probably should trim that, but you know what? I'm being lazy. I'm just going to try and bury it. So take your thread about halfway, whether that's on the weight or not, about halfway to the middle of the body. So what you can do here with this yarn that you can lay flat, or you can spin it into a cord, you can build a taper with it. So I'm going to put the first 2 wraps, let it lay kind of flat to keep my body and the back a little bit thinner. Okay, so that's like 2 wraps and it's still kind of thin. And what I'll do now, I'll start spinning it into a tighter rope for the next wrap, and it should be just a little bit thicker, and then do that again. And now I'm starting to build a little bit of a thicker body and just getting a little bit of a taper up here. So you can just do this, you know, take your time, practice it a little bit, and then you can get, you know, a decent looking taper. And you'll want to, when we catch this off, try and catch it off at the top. And I'll show you why in just a second. So we got 2 pretty tight wraps right there. And that's not a perfect taper, but it's definitely thinner toward the back than it is in the front, so I can live with that. Now, why we wanted to catch it off at the top is because we're going to just fold over a little loop and make a wing case. So just fold that back on itself, put a wrap down right there. Okay, we're coming off the top pretty good. So we got that little loop we're going to pull over as our wing case, but you want to go ahead and put this out of your way because we're going to tie in the hackle first. So that same hackle that we just used for our tail, just pull it up, find about how long you want your legs. I think I want them about right there. So that's where I'm going to create my tie-in point. Just strip a little bit of that off and cut it and then catch it in on that stem. Okay, now this takes a little bit of dexterity right here. You got to hold that loop, yarn, wing case back, and then catch this in. And it doesn't really matter the orientation of your feather on here because we're going to trim it from the top and on the top and the bottom anyway. So let's get this nub off right there. Now pull the feather out of the way, and this one strand of wool, let's go ahead and wrap this, finish wrapping our body. And I'd like the thorax to be, you know, just a little bit thicker than the you know, the front of that body. So I'm going to let it lay kind of flat, but I'm going to put a few wraps on top of each other. And now don't let yourself get too far up here on this eye because, you know, we've got to catch this wing case off and the hackle as well. So I think this will work right there. Okay, that body's not perfectly even, but I do like that mottled color of this wool, you know, yarn, which is kind of a brown and a darker brown. I think that looks really cool. So just flatten this out a little bit right there. Now we're going to wrap this hackle. And we're just going to palmer it up, and you can put a little bit more than you even think you need. 5, 6 wraps even, because we're going to trim it on the top and the bottom and just leave it coming off the sides as legs. So it looks like a big bushy dry fly right now, but it won't when we're done. So let's catch this feather right there off and snip this little guy right here and anything going forward. Okay, so before we pull that wing case over, let's do a little trimming. I just reach right in here and cut a little swath of these out. Do this on the top and the bottom, then you probably got to blow them out of your way. Got a little scraggly going right there. And we might have a little bit more cleanup to do after we put this over and take a look at it. So fold your wing case over. It's nice and pretty fat right there. Just keep it on top of the hook and it'll look good. We'll put a couple wraps and check it before we really lock it in. Is that coming off the top? I think so, and it's got a nice little bulb to it. It looks kind of like a nice wing case for a nymph. Just one more to really lock it in. And then get in here and cut this as close as you can get it so we can get a nice clean head. You can definitely tell that's wool because, you know, you've got those stray fibers coming off there. But just work on your head, clean it up, take your thread right back to the eye and then build this ramp back up. Get enough thread on here to put a drop of head cement and you'll be good to go. Okay, I think that's fine there. Let's put a little whip finish on this guy. Then I'll put a drop of head cement. We'll take a look at it, see if we need to do any cleanup. Yeah, there's a few scragglies there, but you know what? It's kind of a buggy fly and I like it that way. So I'm just gonna put some head cement and then put this in my fly box. So that's it, everybody, the improved Montana Stone. Not too difficult to tie. I appreciate you watching. Y'all take care, and we'll see you next time.